Joe DeRosa, ladies and gentlemen. Joe DeRosa.
What's up, dude?
Hey, man, now, driving in the Lyft
Yeah.
on the way back here to my hotel, listening to you and that portly southern driver.
Who sounded exactly like Ralphie May.
You thought he did, huh?
I thought he had the same voice as Ralphie, and he kind of looked like Ralphie in the face. At least I can only see his eyes in the rear view from where I was sitting, because I was behind him. But
I saw his profile, and I didn't feel...
His eyes looked Ralphie-ish to me.
Okay. Well, hearing you two talk about Marvel Comics versus DC Comics...
yeah.
Whew!
You looked sick.
I just saw... I felt like I was... yeah, definitely.
You looked sick.
My wife gets car sickness sometimes. I had comic book sick.
You never read comics?
I did. I was in years ago. I really liked Jonah Hex a long time ago.
That's a cool one.
Jonah Hex was really cool. The movie was unwatchable.
Terrible movie.
I thought they ruined it because he's like a Confederate soldier zombie.
Yeah.
And he's trying to redeem his past.
Yeah.
And I thought there was a cool element to it.
That's what in the DC versus Marvel debate, I always pick DC, and that's why I've always picked DC, is because I feel that I feel like Marvel does deal with like the human condition with its characters, but I feel like DC actually takes very flawed people and makes them anti-heroes, like people that are, in some ways psychotic. Batman being the best example. It's like this he's crazy. He's literally a lunatic that puts a bat suit on and goes out and like fights criminals in the dark.
He's a rich twat. He could be, he could just be hanging out in the Batcave or at the mansion, just spending his money because he's a rich guy.
Yeah, and he has to actually fake going out as Bruce Wayne. Like he has to fake being this billionaire playboy, like enjoying himself, so he can live the life he really wants to live, which is to fight crime in the street. It's nuts, but it's a really, really cool character. So I like all that stuff. Their villains are also truly evil.
Well, I loved the Batman series in the 70s. It was cheesy with the pow and the kablam.
Yeah.
But you were talking about one villain. So you said... So DC's got better villains, you were saying?
I think so. I find the DC villains much more frightening and much less fantastic.
And you were talking about one that was stoic and emotionless.
I was saying the latest interpretation of the Joker on the Gotham TV series, which I'm a big fan of. It was yet another interpretation I had never seen, which was this very... you think of the Joker, you think of a cackling guy, and Cesar Romero and Nicholson, and then Heath Ledger brought a great twist to it, where it was a much more sinister, dark version of it. And then this version on Gotham was even a newer, or another twist rather, where it's a guy who's brilliant but insane, and he's very stoic. So like there'll be scenes where a cop is punching him repeatedly in the face, and he's just got a dead stare. And, just little things like that. You're like, this guy's not right, man. Like, there's something really wrong with him. So I thought it was cool. It's hard to pull off new interpretations of the Joker anymore.
True.
It's been
but
done
to hear
many
you
times.
have that conversation with the Ralphie May-sized Lyft driver.
Yeah.
And to see him stroke his little...
beard?
Little beard.
I didn't see that.
On his chin. It felt like, I was watching a few French intellectuals talk philosophy or something.
Sure.
But it was like anything that brings people joy, I'm for, and I've got obsessions and...
Like what?
I like stamps. I'm into music like you.
Uh-huh.
I've got tons of vinyl, CDs, cassettes.
Me too.
Still buy all that stuff.
Stamps?
Yeah, well, when I go to different countries.
Okay.
I don't get old antique stamps.
Okay.
Like when I go to different countries, like Mongolia, they've got like the greatest stamps in the world. They've done Elvis stamps. They do World Cup stamps.
Oh, okay.
They do greatest events in human history. And like one stamp is Albert Einstein's E equals MC squared.
Oh, that's cool.
Another one is, whatever.
That's pretty cool.
Nagasaki, Hiroshima.
Okay.
Things like that. And these are little stamps.
Okay.
They've done Bob Marley.
Oh, wow.
They do...
I had no idea.
Yeah, cool shit like that. So It's just I'll pick stamps up in my travels, and then also, going into post offices to mail shit. Different countries. Hey, let me take a look at the stamps you got.
Right. And then will you use the stamps?
No. I'll just save a sheet.
Yeah.
I'll buy a sheet of something.
You'll put them in a binder or something.
No, I have a box where I throw them. And, yeah. So I'm not precious about it.
Right, I got you. Yeah, I got you.
And then also, so you're telling me you're also a big gamer. You're into games, video games, and one of your things is buying old antique video game cartridges, right?
Yeah, I have about 26 systems, I guess, at this point.
Different things that you can play games on.
Yeah, which is a good number. It's not crazy, like hardcore collectors probably have more, closer to 50 systems, or they'll have fewer systems, but they'll have complete libraries for the system. I don't collect like that. I buy the systems I like, and then I buy the games I want for those systems. So I'll have a little bit for each one. And I do enjoy the older games. I like the newer games too, but my friend Crystal put it best. She said, video games are a collection of art that you can interact with. They're fun to look at. They're beautiful to look at. They encompass many different art styles, and the programming and design that goes into these things, even in the oldest games, is pretty impeccable. But it's a toy that you can take off the shelf and actually play and not look like a lunatic at 41 years old. If you walked in my house and I was playing with Star Wars toys on the rug, you'd be like, I gotta go, dude.
What's wrong with Star Wars toys?
No, I love Star Wars toys. I just said at my age, I can't. I'll still buy a Star Wars figure here and there. I can't play with it, though.
So will you be like, one night I'm in a Nintendo mood?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, literally exactly that. I'll just get in the mood for a certain thing. When I travel, I bring, I have a bunch of handheld systems, so when I travel, I bring a couple of those with me. So right now I have my Switch with me and my PSP.
That's what you do instead of reading?
I read a little bit still. It depends on if I'm in a drinking phase or a non-drinking phase. If I'm in a non-drinking phase, I'll read. I'll also play video games, but I'll read too. If I'm in a drinking phase, I will play video games, but I won't read. Reading makes me, I enjoy it, but it makes me very drowsy. And I can only do it for finite periods of time. So usually I'll do it before bed for like a half an hour. And it will make me pass out eventually. Not out of boredom. I don't know what that is. My eyes start to strain. Are you one of these guys that can read for like hours?
I like to read. Yeah.
But you can.
That's why I like the international flights are always great for me, because I sit there and read for hours. And just, it's great.
Literally hours.
Flying, it's great.
Yeah.
And it's one thing it irritates me about American airports is CNN is playing in every corner of the airport.
Right.
And why blast out this shit that is people can't solve these problems? It's going to stress people out.
Right. But instead make it quiet so you can read, you're saying?
Yeah, motherfuckers, I'd like to read. Can we turn that down?
What do you read? You strike me as a guy who reads a lot of history. And
yeah, I'm a non-fiction guy all the way.
Yeah.
And I like certain philosophy.
Yeah.
But you told me we were having lunch at Fox's Brothers Barbecue, and
yeah, we're here in Atlanta.
Very visible.
Yeah.
Your Zappa Lives tattoo. So you also told me that. So you really Zappa's your dude.
Zappa and George Carlin, and I have a tattoo for both of them. I have Zappa Lives on this arm.
Well, how come the George Carlin isn't visible?
It used to be, but I didn't like the way they did it, so I had it covered and moved. So the George Carlin one now is back here on the back of my arm.
Where it says kitten?
That says keep kicking them in the nuts. Because that was George Carlin's advice to young comedians, and when I met him, he said it to me.
Really?
And I was like, I'm going to get the letters for that tattooed on my arm. Why the fuck not? I'm surprised you don't have any tattoos.
Never had any desire.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you're like a big, you're like a sort of, your personality-wise, you're sort of stony, 60s kind of rocker. you know, I remember when I first saw you do comedy when I was young. You know, your whole thing was, you know, who let Jim Morrison on stage, right? Or it was something, you had a bit about that, something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but you know, you know, I remember
seeing a rocker without ink and shit, and now it's like anybody can get ink. I'm really into scars. I think scars are cool.
Scars are very cool, and I agree you can be a rocker without ink. I'm just surprised that you seem, you know, you seem like a guy that if I had to guess one way or the other would probably have tattoos, but you don't.
Zero.
Yeah, zero. This is also the first time I've ever seen you out not wearing a black shirt.
Huh.
Every time I see you is at a club, and you're big on the black.
I like black.
Yeah.
It has slimming qualities.
It does, but you're a fit guy, aren't you?
No, I'm okay right now. But I mean, I have a tendency to balloon up sometimes.
I'm disgusting.
I'll go through periods just eating whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
And because I stopped drinking and doing hard drugs, I think, well, I deserve this.
Yeah.
Beef brisket or Polish sausage or whatever. But you know, especially I'm married, you can't always think about yourself when you're married.
Right. Well, I'm in a phase of drinking and eating whatever I want, so that's a bad combo.
Are you single?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, sort of.
Okay, because like I guess that was the joke I was trying to lead up to. Is, you know, you're really hard into games and gaming. Frank Zappa's one of your big musical interests.
Yeah, I've never heard this. I've never heard this slam before, Tom. This is how original of you.
I know. I'm so sorry. But actually the other flip side of that is there is a really dorky, weird girl out there who is the love of your life, and you just haven't met her yet.
I do date. When I do date, and I do date.
I do date.
Yeah, not a due date, but. When the people I date usually do like, the women usually do like video games. Zappa, not so much. I've been to a lot of Zappa tribute shows. It's hard to find a female insight in those things.
Well, I tell you, I'm a huge music lover, and I like what, like, the dude he was, and like some of his quotes, like that quote about the music industry is just this long. It's such a brilliant quote.
Right.
Zappa's quote about, you know, the music industry, that it's this long, dark hallway and cold and backstabbers. I forget what the quote is, and he goes, and that's the upside.
Yeah.
He's got really great quotes, and he seemed like he was a really funny guy. And like I told you, my mother's mother, her maiden name was Zappa.
Yes.
So I might be related to Frank. So I really put an effort into trying to enjoy his music.
You started with the wrong record, because you started with Joe's Garage, which is a great record, but I don't think that's one you can start with, which is weird, because Burr fought me on Zappa for years, and then Burr was like, dude, I get it. I got Joe's Garage, and now I get it. And I was like, I said to Burr, I go, I'm surprised that's the one that turned you, man, because that's kind of a polarizing record. It's kind of goofy. There's a lot of humor in a lot of the songs, and then it goes from being very poppy to it's a play, a musical in 3 acts, or a rock opera in 3 acts. So the first act is very poppy, and then it starts to get really fucking weird and like dissident, like arpeggio repetitions with like these very like echoey guitar solos over them and stuff. Like it's not an easy album to just swallow all at once, you know. So I was surprised that that's the one that got him into it. I'm not surprised that that's the one you tried to get into it. You were like, this isn't for me, man. You know? But I love Zappa.
So what's the philosophy behind the Zappa Lives tattoo that you have on your forearm?
Well, the Zappa really admired this composer named Edgar Varese, or Varese. You know, I never have figured out how to say it properly.
This podcast specializes in mispronouncing things.
Good.
You are right at home, sir.
This is the Edgar Varese podcast, right? Yeah. I just want to be respectful. He really liked this guy, and he talked about when he was a kid, and he said he went to the record store and he saw an Edgar Varese album, and he said he didn't know who he was or what the music was, but he said this guy on the cover, this composer, looked like a mad scientist, so he bought it. And he said he took it home and he listened to it and he absolutely hated it. And then he said after X amount of listens, he couldn't stop listening to it. It was like his favorite thing in the world. And that's what I went through with Zappa. Exactly the same thing. The first times I heard it, I was screaming at my buddy to turn it off. I was like, this is fucking terrible. I can't stand it. And then all of a sudden something popped and I had to hear all of it and I was obsessed with it. So Zappa in his albums would often put an Edgar Varese quote that said, "The modern day composer refuses to die." And that was Varese's way of saying, you know, every composer isn't dead. People think they all died out with Beethoven and Mozart and whatever, but we're still here. That's at least how I interpreted it. And that was also Zappa's philosophy about composition, and that's why he used the Varese quote. And Zappa, for me, was my Varese. He was the guy that kind of changed the way I looked at creation and art and what you could do with your product versus just doing what everybody else was doing, and questioning the temperature of everything around you and in your business and in your field. Zappa was the first musician I ever heard that took shots at other musicians. And that was really interesting for me because I was, you know, I grew up listening mostly to rap music, which I'm still a big fan of. But when I got older and I started to get into some classic rock and stuff like that, those bands were even further removed from me than they were for kids that I grew up with that started listening to them early on. So these bands were mythical to me. And to hear a guy like Zappa go after a Peter Frampton or something like that, who I'm not a fan of, and then you kind of realize...
I fucked your wife, bitch.
No, nothing like that.
Gave him the Tupac Biggie.
No, nothing like that. No. I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker. It's the first line and hit him up. I was like, that's... we just listened to that on the Jim and Sam show on Sirius the other day, and I was like, when you start the song like that, that's, you know, this isn't
It's such a great song.
It's an awesome song.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is going nowhere good. This is where...
I've heard it all over the world, too. I remember when it first came out, I was like, oh my God, this is like a real hush-hush thing that like only a few people would ever know about. But like that thing gained so much momentum and notoriety around the world.
Many would argue it's the greatest diss track of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of, it wasn't that, intense with Zappa, but it was like, but like, my point is like, you hear about this guy, Peter Frampton, and "Ooh, Baby, I Love Your Way," and you just thought, well, that's from when my parents were younger. That's...
Do you feel like... I always hated that voice machine thing
that
he used.
I hate that song.
Do you feel like I do?
And then you hear Zappa making fun of it. Yeah.
That's great.
You hear Zappa making fun of it, and you go, oh, that's like how people today make fun of Britney Spears, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Right. Some other contemporary musician. So he was really life-changing for me. And I think that his spirit can live on in the sense of how you can create. So that's where I got the term Zappa lives from. It's like, no, and it's a play on the Edgar Varese quote, "This thing refuses to die." Like, this can still be a thing if people choose to pursue it. It is possible. Excuse me. So, but I feel that way also about Carlin. I'm attracted to all artists like that. Yeah. It was something I realized in my late 20s, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks one day. I was like, oh, everything I've ever been interested in artistically has been something that says fuck you to almost everything else. I loved Gangster Rap. Still do. Love Carlin. Prefer the later to the earlier. I like when he started doing social commentary much more than I liked.
Oh yeah, the early stuff I hated. That hippy dippy weatherman and all that shit. That last half of Carlin's career, which I love as I age as a comedian, to think that the man did his best work as he got older.
Yeah, and it's when it becomes vehemently like the middle finger at everybody and saying,
"Guy, he wasn't trying to get a sitcom."
No, yeah, And then that last special, it just sums him up so much, and it sums up. The first joke on his very last special, it just captured the way I felt about everything. And this was before any of the controversy with Tiger Woods. And he comes out and he goes, "I'd like to begin by saying fuck." Sorry, excuse me. He starts with, "I'd like to begin by saying fuck Lance Armstrong." And it's before the Lance Armstrong
the
drug
scandal,
thing came out. And he goes, "Fuck him and his bicycle shorts and his dumb expression on his face. I'm tired of that asshole. Everybody's cheering." And then he goes, "And fuck Tiger Woods too." And it's pre-Tiger Woods controversy. And he goes, "I'm tired of being told who my heroes ought to be." Like,
wow.
And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, I've felt like that my whole life. Like, I've always reacted very poorly to people telling me, "You're supposed to feel this way about this." I was raised very Catholic, and I have since strayed from it greatly.
So, but you've come up with your own Church of Saints, which is what I've done. I've come up with my own. Like Muhammad Ali is like a prophet to me.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And I have my own church and my hall of saints of my religion.
Yeah, I was when I learned about Malcolm X, I was riveted
Malcolm
by
X
him.
is huge for me. Carlin's huge for me. Bill Hicks, Voltaire.
Bad Religion was a big one for me. The band.
Yeah, I know Bad Religion.
I got into them in high school.
I'm originally from D.C., baby.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, they're from L.A. though.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, Minor Threat's from D.C. though.
Okay.
All that whole crew though. That D.C.'s huge in the hardcore scene. I mean, you got Minor Threat, you got Fugazi. Discord Records is D.C., so it's like that's pretty great. But Bad Religion was the first thing that I had heard of Carlin before that, and I'd been a fan before that. But Bad Religion came at a time where I was in high school, Catholic high school, and I was really sick of it. And I felt like I had nobody I could really turn to or express that to. And I got into Bad Religion, and suddenly here was this band saying, like, you can question the idea of God and organized religion and all this stuff. And it was life-changing for me, It was... But I've always just liked that stuff. I like people...
You cannot petition the Lord with prayer.
Yeah, exactly.
Jim Morrison.
Yeah. That's my favorite Doors record, by the way. Soft Parade. What about you?
L.A. Woman. No. The first one, The Doors. Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
Break on Through. I think the best Doors records are The Doors and L.A. Woman. And the rest of them just have a couple of songs here and there on them.
I think every one of the records from front to back is solid, except Morrison Hotel is the one I find gets kind of boring.
Yeah.
But it starts with Roadhouse Blues, which is like the greatest opener
Gonna
ever.
get my kicks before this whole shithouse goes up in flames. I'm a Sagittarius. Me too. I don't believe in it. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit. Fucking love it. I've been to Morrison's grave, Jesus, countless times. I was really into the Doors when I was younger, and I used to be skinny and wear jeans and cowboy boots and t-shirts, when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And when I was dating my early 20s, living with a French Parisian woman, on one of my trips to Paris, I had worn out a pair of cowboy boots. I had them resold. They were worn. Mm-hmm. Her mother lived right a few blocks from Père Lachaise. And now there's a guard. There used to not be a guard. Mm-hmm. And then I went there at sunrise. Like I woke up, I was jet lagged. Before sunrise, I'm there when Père Lachaise opens, and I go and I sacrificed my boots. I put them on Morrison's grave. Mm-hmm. And then I went back like an hour later, and they were gone. So,
wow.
Some stoned Belgian kid probably wearing it like 20 minutes later.
Artie Lang had the best visiting a grave story. I can't remember if it was Morrison's grave or Belushi's grave, but I feel like it must have been Belushi. But he went to the grave and he left a bag of blow.
No way. Nobody would leave a bag of blow.
He left a bag of blow as like a...
He said he did it on the grave.
No.
I would believe it.
He left it as like a nod, And then he left and he said 3 hours later he was back in the cemetery taking the blow bag. Taking it back. Like, well, what was I thinking?
That's one of my my strange habits. Is I like to take pilgrimages to graves of people I admire.
That's cool.
And
I think that's strange.
I've been to, and I think it was the Morrison and Père Lachaise that kicked it off.
Look, when I went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery and I saw Johnny Ramone's grave with that statue, it blew me away.
Playing? I love it.
It blew me away. And I remember watching the Johnny Ramone documentary and seeing Eddie Vedder do the eulogy at that grave.
Oh, wow.
And Eddie Vedder's a guy that I really like quite a bit. So.
I'm watching that Let's Play 2, the live at Wrigley Field.
What is that? No, I don't know.
They put it out last year.
Pearl Jam did?
Yeah, oh, okay. 2016 when the Cubs won the World Series.
Oh, okay.
Pearl Jam played at Wrigley.
Oh, cool.
And they kind of cut in the story of the Cubs and Eddie Vedder's relationship with the Cubs, why he's a Cubs fan.
Okay.
Him growing up with it. And it's a great concert.
Oh, and, great.
I've watched it like 3 times. I think it's great.
I've seen them live a few times. They're great. I mean, they put on a hell of a show.
I saw them when 10 first came out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
At the Warfield in San Francisco.
Wow. So that's a whole
The early
different...
90s living in San Francisco, the Bill Graham owned the Punchlines, and they were the concert monopoly promoters. So comedians could get free tickets, or you could be guaranteed tickets and pay for them. And a lot like the Rolling Stones, I'd be like, I remember I saw the Rolling Stones at Dodger Stadium, and Jack Nicholson was seated behind me.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And I was dating this woman. It was the time when I had the sitcom, and I was dating this woman who was, she could be cantankerous, shall we say, and we had some testy moments in the relationship, and I took all my courage. I'm a huge pot smoker. I got long hair, and I'm that Tom Rhodes that you remember, and I had a really cool American flag jester pipe.
Okay.
And I packed him a fresh bowl. I'm not going to hand Jack a fucking half burnt bowl.
Right.
And it took every bit of my courage to turn around and go, Mr. Nicholson, sir, would you like some weed?
Right.
And he's really like, now he must be a super old man, but he was an old man then.
Right.
He like he creaks down, sticks his face right over the bowl, and he looks at it, and then he lifts his head up, looks at me, and he goes, "Aren't you gonna have any?" And I go, I just had some. I wanted to offer you a fresh bowl.
Right.
So he shrugs, takes my Bic lighter and my American flag jester pipe, and he took a heroic swat off of this fucking thing, and then blew it out, and he hands it back to me, and he goes, "Thank you." And then I turned around, success. Oh my God, I just smoked pot with Jack Nicholson at a Rolling Stones concert in Dodger Stadium. And the girl I was dating turns to me and goes, "Aren't you going to offer his date any?" Well, that's not my place, baby. If Jack wanted his woman to have some of the pipe, it was Jack's move to say, "You want to get on this, baby?"
Right.
So
there's no way to...
Yeah.
That's an amazing... You've never told that story on this podcast?
Maybe not.
Holy shit.
No.
Jesus Christ, Rhodes. You told me the greatest story that I've told a million times. I've always credited you with it. Okay. I don't say credit. But now I was a fan, for those of you listening, I was a fan of Tom growing up. I was, you're one of the comics I used to watch when Comedy Central was the Comedy Channel.
No, I was never on the Comedy Channel.
Well,
when I was on, you watched it then, though.
I'm just saying, when the Comedy Channel came out, which was there were 2 channels. It was Ha and the Comedy Channel.
Yeah.
Ha was all the sitcom reruns, and Comedy Channel was all stand-up. And when my mom told me that these 2 channels were being added to cable, we were both elated because we were big stand-up comedy fans. And then they combined, and then it became Comedy Central.
Yeah.
So I was a fan from the beginning, is my point. And you were a guy that I watched on Comedy Central and Stand Up, or whatever those fucking shows were back then, short attention span theater.
Yeah, that was like the face of the network for a couple of years in the early days.
You were?
I did. Well, did you
do commercials or something?
I did these commercials, and then they hired me to do everything.
Yeah.
I was given the first development deal.
And I remember
the history of Comedy Central's the network.
I remember Attell doing commercials. I think his were on Comedy Central, and then Leary did them on MTV.
Well, Leary had done them on MTV.
Yeah.
And then they loved my stuff, and they thought, I had this, cool long hair, young, skinny guy look. And they filmed him like rock videos, which was what they did. Leary was in like a field with like a burning fire in a can or some shit like that.
Yeah. I remember his were like black and white. He'd pace back and forth smoking. Okay. Yeah. And let me tell you, okay. It was very Leary.
Yeah.
But yours, I remember, yeah. Like, I have a vague memory of them, but I remember they were very you.
Yeah.
In different style. But anyway, so you were a guy that I watched and enjoyed. And when I started comedy, you were a guy that I looked up to. I still do. So when I met you, isn't he humble, everybody? Just taking it.
Yeah, please do tell, Mr. DeRosa.
So when I first met you, I was recording my first Comedy Central half hour. I believe you were possibly recording your second.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very excited to meet you. We ended up in a bar together with Joanne Grigioni and Ann Harris from Comedy Central.
Oh, we were doing the karaoke.
Yes.
Yeah, oh great.
And you sang Highway Star, which I remember I thought was an awesome choice.
Yeah.
Not just because I like the song and I like Deep Purple, but Faith No More also used to cover Highway Star, and I worship Faith No More.
Oh wow.
So anyway,
I love it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hate it.
Yeah. It's the best.
Oh, that's yeah.
So anyway, after I met you, I was telling people that I met you, and I told them two things. I said number one, I was excited to finally meet Tom Rhodes, and younger comics that hadn't met you would go, "What's he like?" And I go, "He's cool." And I don't mean like he's nice. I mean he's like Fonzie cool, right? And I remember Chappelle saying to me, right around that time I toured with Chappelle a bit, and I remember him telling me a show that I didn't open for him on, Samuel L. Jackson came and hung out backstage, which was brutal to hear because I love Samuel L. Jackson. But Chappelle said something similar about Samuel L. Jackson. He goes, he's cool, man. And he goes, I'm talking about, give me one of them squares, motherfucker. Cool like that, And I was like, wow, that's fucking cool that Samuel L. Jackson calls cigarettes squares, But you were one of those guys too. I was like, he's like fucking Fonzie cool, man. He's like Tarantino cool, like, And I go and he told me one of the greatest fucking stories I've ever heard about meeting Lars Ulrich at the Punchline and going back to Lars Ulrich's fucking mansion and living it up with him, man. And I was like that. And then the second part, which is when Lars brings Tom Waits
to see yeah.
It was
introduces me to Tom Waits.
Yeah.
I love Skinner.
Yeah.
It's fucked up, man.
Yeah, you guys watch Skinner, right? And in Lars's home studio or whatever.
Yeah, all night. Apparently, he's like a big Skinner fan.
That's wild.
Yeah, so I'm coked out of my skull with Lars Ulrich watching Leonard Skinner videos all night. There's a picture. And then like 2 years later, Chappelle's doing the Punchline in San Francisco.
Right.
And I was doing 9 p.m. shows. Chappelle's doing midnight shows.
Right.
I've known Chappelle's for years. He asked me if I would stay and open for his show. Mm-hmm. And then there's a few minutes left on the show. On my show, I got like 10 minutes left. Lars Ulrich walks in with Tom Waits, and they sit at the center back couch. And one of the greatest achievements of my career was seeing Tom Waits laugh at some of my shit.
Jesus Christ, man.
So the show ends, audience leaves, Chappelle's audience comes in. It's a few minutes before the show's about to start. And Lars Ulrich comes over to me and goes, "Hey, man, you came to my house a few years ago and we watched Leonard Skinner videos all night."
Fuck.
And I'm like, "Yeah, man, that's so cool you remembered." And he goes, "You gotta meet Tom. You want to come over and meet Tom?" I'm like, Tom Waits, my all-time hero. And every step, I'm like 8 steps away. Every step I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I'm about to meet Tom Waits. Oh my God, I'm about to meet Tom Waits." And as we get to the table, Lars Ulrich goes, "This guy came," he introduces me, he goes, "This guy came to my house a few years ago when we watched Leonard Skinner videos all night." And as I'm shaking Tom Waits' hand, I go, "I love Skinner."
Wait a minute.
and then the lights went out, and the show started, and I never got to say another word to the fucking guy.
I remembered it differently.
Okay, how do you remember?
I remembered it, everything the same. You saying a thing that made you feel stupid, and the lights went down. I remember you going, "My name's Tom too." No, it's. I love Skinner. No. I've been telling it wrong this whole time.
That's hilarious.
I thought it was "My name's Tom too." Lights, but I love Skinner. Is
no wonder none of your fans follow me. They think it's a lame story.
No. That's a great story, man. I love it. It's funny.
But I was going to say, I was in Chicago a few weeks ago, and James Hetfield was sitting in the front row of my show, and it was a small crowd, and I thought to myself, that guy looks like James Hetfield. And then I thought, that can't be him. There's a lot of guys look like James Hetfield. And then I always ask if there's someone from a different country in the audience. The woman that was with him, who now I know was his wife, was from Argentina. My mother's from Argentina. I get all excited. I'm all focused on her.
Right.
I'm looking at her, and I'm telling her all the things I know about Argentina and doing all my stories and jokes.
Right.
About Argentina, and then I really kind of, didn't think about him anymore. And as I walked by, he goes, "Good show, man," because he was right on the corner seats. And then the next day, Jim Brewer texted me and goes, "Hey, man, James Hetfield was at your show last night, and you loved it." I was like, "Oh, fuck, why didn't I even get to meet?" If I'd have known it was him, I'd have told the fucking Lars Ulrich story. That's great for him to hear that.
Yeah, no, he would have loved that.
Yeah.
I assume he would have loved it. I don't know.
Maybe he'd like your version better.
My name's Tom too.
Now, so I wanted to ask you this before. So you got the Zappa Lives on your forearm, and it's got meaning for you. Right. Is there any Joe DeRosa motto or punchline that some young kid in the future might get tattooed?
I doubt it.
No?
I mean, heaven help him. I mean, he should aim a lot higher. No, I don't.
What is your personal motto?
I have faith in almost nothing. That truly is my motto. People say that that's cynical, but it's not. I don't mean it in a nihilistic way. But I don't believe in institutions or belief systems or government or church or like any of those things. I just don't believe in these structures. I write about it every month, and I have a column in Penthouse every month about this.
Penthouse magazine still exists.
Yeah, in fact, they're kind of doing in this sort of Renaissance period. So
great.
They're resurging. So that's a better way to put it, like a resurgence period. But I've been writing for them for the last year and change, and that's what my column's been about. It's called "You Let Me Down," and it's just about everything I was taught to believe in as a kid and rely on. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
The information age just kind of pulled the curtain back on everything fully. So I just, that truly is my philosophy. If more than two people are trying to pitch me something, I get fucking skeptical immediately, and I don't subscribe to groups or institutions, and it has served me well so far.
Yeah, but that's why I thought, being into superhero comic books and shit, that's like, kind of, there's a religion in that, isn't there? There's a religion in video games.
There's no, look. I
belong to the religion of comedy.
Yeah. I'd say, I would agree with you in the sense of look, there are toxic fans out there, and I don't get into that. You know what I mean? I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And there are very toxic Star Wars fans out there. Like Bernie Bros toxic. I like Bernie, but the Bernie Bros were annoying. And kind of gross. And it's like there are Star Wars fans out there that are like that literally have bullied this girl. I can't remember the actor's name, but she played this character Rose in The Last Jedi. She quit social media over it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were piling up on her so hard and being racist and all that stuff. So I think those are the guys that take it religiously. I take it into it's an individual experience for me. I don't care what you like. I don't care if you're into it too. If you are, great, let's talk about it. We might even disagree. But for me, it's not, there's no camaraderie in it for me. There is no the Star Wars gang, and I want to go down to the convention because I want to be with my people. There's never, ever, ever any of that.
You never thought about wearing your hair in Princess Leia buns?
Yeah, but that was my own idea for myself. So it's everything is I'm just very much like that in life. It's my personal experience, and I will filter it myself.
I respect that. Find your own knowledge and build your own churches.
Yeah, but I think you get into trouble when you call them churches. That's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, just like what I was saying about choosing your own saints and stuff, because I started out Catholic as well.
Yeah.
And, it's funny, because like I started out Catholic when I was a kid, and I was confirmed, and then got really away from religion when I was, late teen and early 20s. I moved to San Francisco, got really into subversive literature, read all about the, Crusades and this nasty shit that the Catholic Church has done historically. Could not have been further away from Catholicism and organized religion. And then, and that lasted a good 20 years or so. And then in the last 10 years, I went to Rome 4 times. And Ashna and I got, there's a really nice, like Airbnb apartments we've stayed in by the Vatican. So I went to the Vatican twice, once with Benedicto and once with Francisco.
Uh-huh.
And it's like going to a concert, and there's something exciting about it. And so that made me feel like, man, wow, I was really happy that I was confirmed. And then just within the last year of in the last few years of all the, the pedophilia in Ireland, and then that big case came out in all this, thousands of cases in Pennsylvania, and now it's and I thought the Pope's handling, when he went to Ireland, he was only there for 48 hours or something.
Right.
If I was the Pope, I'd be spending all my time in Ireland right now.
Right.
I mean, hugging everyone.
Right.
Saying, don't give up on us, babe. That was just a few bad apples.
Right. Yeah.
But now it seems like the whole Catholic Church was a fucking pedophile ring that somebody knew something about.
Well, that's kind of what I mean about when you start to get into the groupthink of it all. It's going to let you down. It's going to burn you. And here's something funny. I would never consider myself religious these days, and I certainly do not identify as a Catholic or subscribe to the Catholic faith. I love going to churches. I don't love going to church.
The structure and the architecture.
The architecture, but there's a serenity I get inside of that sort of spiritual structure that I find incredibly peaceful and touching. And I'll go sit in a church sometimes, just with my thoughts.
Well, if you've ever been in Paris in the middle of summer, or some of these other European cities that they're not big on air conditioning,
right?
Popping in those old dark cathedrals, it helps, right? Cool and shady.
Yeah. But again, that's individual experience. I don't like groups. I don't like them. They're very dangerous. Did you ever see that Twilight Zone? The monsters are coming to the monsters are on Maple Street, whatever it was called, where everything electric stops working. It's not just that the power goes out, like their cars don't work, batteries don't work. Nothing that uses electricity works at all, suddenly. And it's a beautiful suburban street where everybody gets along and they're all neighbors and everybody loves everybody and blah, blah, blah. And then you just watch them devolve into an angry mob, because they're trying to figure out who to blame and who to go after with the pitchforks. And that's what people do. So why would I ever want to be part of something where if you just kind of pulled this one Jenga block out, it would it would crumble into this whole other pile of a mess.
Well, I respect you for many reasons, but you were telling me at lunch how you deleted your Twitter account.
Yeah.
I have great admiration for that.
Well, thanks.
That you didn't want to be in that mob rule of hate and vile.
It's horrible. I mean, look, I grew up listening to. Sorry, bang the table by accident. I grew up listening to, I
asked him not to, Ashna.
I didn't bang it with my hand. My elbow just hit. I grew up listening, like I said, mostly to rebellious rap music, and then I got into punk rock music and metal and stuff. And those musicians, particularly rap and punk, they didn't subscribe to either team. Their whole thing was, this whole system is fucked up. There's problems on both sides. Let's start thinking a little differently about everything. And I really related to that, you know? And Twitter is a really great example of two teams of people screaming at each other and getting nothing done. You know, I was writing for my column today about sensitivity and just saying, like, you know, guys, I know, like, everybody thinks they're special. Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself, because then you'll have more friends. When you're on your deathbed, you're going to remember your friends and your fun. You're not going to remember having the fight in the comment section under the Jordan Peterson video on YouTube. You know what I mean? Thinking you're going to change somebody's mind. You're going to waste all this fucking energy with these comments and this hate and this anger. And it's like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't fix anything, because nobody wants to listen anyway. So why be in that environment? You know what I mean? If you and I talk like this, we might actually get somewhere, you know? If we disagreed on something, we might actually get somewhere. You know, you might say, oh, Joe, what about this? Oh, Tom, I never looked at it that way. Because this is fucking rational, dude. This is human. The internet is not fucking human. It's insanity, dude. Like, go watch Ready Player One. It's like, it's what it is. It's fucking nuts. It's people out for blood and money. So, not a good movie, by the way, but that part of it.
Then why'd you ask me to watch it? Well, I respect that you walked away from it.
I'll walk away from Instagram soon too, but not yet.
I'm addicted to Instagram. I'm gonna have to take a break after my Europe tour. I'm gonna have to delete it from the phone. I'm spending too much time looking at it.
Why do you stay on Twitter? Because you don't sound like you're a big fan.
No, and I told you my thing that. Like 4 or 5 years ago, I was trying to think of funny tweets all the time, and
sure,
so I could build, you know, the followers and the numbers and everything. And then I found myself thinking more in terms of tweets than jokes, in 140 characters. And you know, fuck Twitter. Why? I'm not working for Twitter.
Right.
I should be thinking of comedy, jokes.
Right.
You know, long form essays, things like that I can do on the stage. So. In recent years, I'll retweet gigs and I'll, you know, post a podcast and stuff like that. And I've had very little, occasionally I'll throw a one-liner on there or something. But last year during the Charlottesville riots, after day 3, one of my followers tweets to me, "You've remained remarkably quiet through the events in Charlottesville." Mm-hmm. Like, I'm supposed to make an official comment?
Yeah.
Nazis are bad.
I mean,
I thought we all agreed on that.
That's the thing. Twitter has turned into everybody's personal press conference.
Yeah.
They really think they're making a statement to the world. I've seen people announce their divorces on Twitter as if it was like a publicist for a celebrity couple, you know, being like, "Hey guys, Ben and Jen just broke up. Please respect their privacy. Please, you know, guys, get the cameras off the lawn. They need some space." I've seen people announce their divorces on Twitter like that.
Well.
And it's psychotic. It's megalomania. And it's everybody's personal little press tour. And it's just so not fucking important, man. Somebody said something so smart to me once. It's a comic. It was a comic. And I don't know if he wants this repeated, so I won't say who it was, but we were talking about Twitter, and we were talking about how everybody on there is saying, like, currently saying, like, the world's gonna, you know, this is the worst, and the world's gonna end, and all this shit, and whatever. And everything sucks right now, sure. And we agreed on that point, but then he's like, could you imagine the arrogance of somebody to think they're the ones that are gonna witness the end of the world? After all the shit that's happened on this planet, all the fucking horror that has happened on this planet, both with nature and human doing. To sit there and be like, oh my God, my life is the worst that it's ever been, as you sit in a cubicle or a suburban home or whatever it is typing that. There's a level of arrogance to that I can't even wrap my fucking head around.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe we're the most thin-skinned and the weakest threshold of pain
right
generation.
Yeah, and, you know, it's
Is there breaking news?
No, my friend was texting to say when she was picking me up.
How long we got?
She said a little after 4:30. It's 4:29.
Fantastic.
I mean, we kind of but
what are other things that have let you down that you've written about?
I wrote about marriage. I wrote about.
Were you married?
No, but I don't. For me personally, I don't believe in the traditional concept of it.
I never did either. Neither did my wife.
Yeah, and I mean, look, that can change, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was awesome, and didn't want to live without her.
Sure.
And she wasn't an American citizen.
I'm a big fan of. I wrote a piece about platonic marriage, is what I called it, where there was no sex involved in the marriage whatsoever. You just found a friend, same sex or opposite sex or whatever. Didn't matter. You just devoted your life to support somebody, and they do the same to you. So it could be your best pal in the world who doesn't feel like settling down or whatever, but you know that when you get cancer, he's going to be there for you. You know, I mean, to me,
somewhere I read a story earlier this year. It was like two guys who were friends got married in like England or Canada.
Mm-hmm.
They were like best friends, like older dudes in their 60s. And they thought, hey man, we can get a tax break.
Yeah,
we're always together.
Yeah, and then we can go out and talk to whoever the fuck we want, get laid with whoever we want.
They don't get laid. They're like old dudes.
Well, you know, in theory. But so that was one of them. I wrote one about sensitivity, which I kind of already was talking about today. I wrote one about freedom of expression and how that's kind of a bunch of bullshit, because just try expressing yourself in the wrong place, like Twitter, watch the fucking mob come after you real fast. It's all just been
there's freedom of expression and there's freedom of punching somebody in the face. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, exactly. The first one I ever did was drugs. How I don't believe in don't say no to drugs. I'm like, no, you can live a long life doing drugs very responsibly. You know, I was like, stay away from the big three: heroin, crack, and meth. You know, but all the other ones, you can, if you don't fucking go off the rails, you know, you can have some fun here and there.
Absolutely.
So, so it's just stuff like that, you know. But I don't know, if you ever buy Penthouse, check it out. I hope you. I'm saying that to the listeners. I'm not trying.
Oh, I thought you were looking at me.
No, I'm not trying to tell you to go buy Penthouse. I'm just saying, like, if anybody out there would like to see it, it's you know, I've been in the last 13 or 14 issues.
That's awesome. So did they saw your comedy? They liked what you were doing?
They were kind of rebranding the magazine. They wanted to bring it back to like the sort of Bob Guccione days when, you know, it was something that really rivaled Playboy and wasn't just
he was like the sleazier Playboy.
Yeah, but they still had articles and
they showed Bush before Playboy showed Bush.
Mm-hmm. It was like the Playboy articles except with way better porn. So they were looking for a comedian who was opinionated to come in and write a thematic column that could carry for a while. And my manager at the time called me and said, I think this is right up your alley. I really think you would be good at this. And you've been kind of looking to get into different types of writing. And because I had written for TV for years and I hated it. And so I started doing it. I pitched them the idea. The editor loved it. And luckily, I've been there ever since.
Must be also a great writing exercise for coming up with ideas and jokes and stuff.
It's tremendous. It's funny. When I first...
To force yourself to do something like every month.
When I first started, I would put jokes from my act into there.
Yeah.
Now I'm pulling stuff out of my column for my act. Like, I'll be writing and I'll be like, oh shit, that's fucking funny.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I could tag that onto this other joke I'm doing right now. So I'm hoping that eventually they become, you know, two seamless things. But we'll see. It's fun, man. It's fun. It's a nice discipline, nice little stipend for the income every month. And you know.
What's the next month's going to be about?
I'm not.
You write them at the last minute?
No. I'm not privy to say. My editor actually, this is one of the only times she's ever called me and said, I have an idea that I'd like you to do if you're into it. So I'm not privy to say, but I have to talk about it with her. But it'll be in the vein of all this, you know.
Have you picked a side in the Kavanaugh Ford confirmation hearing?
That's a great thing to bring up in the last 30 seconds. Let's just record it.
Because it's like riveting American history we're living
Yeah,
through.
no, it's nuts.
I think we're on the verge of... I think we should just divide the country. I don't think... We got two groups of people that are never going to decide on anything. So just fucking divide the country before we break out into civil war. And you watch the... You know, like the Fox... I was watching Fox News yesterday, man. And watching Sean Hannity last night was really funny. Because, you know, Christine Ford, Dr. Ford, whatever, I forget if it's Christine or Kristen, her first name. Her testimony was amazing, and I believe her. That she said it was 100% him. And then he talks later, Kavanaugh, and he's all pissed and yelling, and he was indignant and he was disrespectful and asking that woman, the Democratic senator, you know, have you ever blacked out? And she said, no, my father was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And
He was kind of he was being a prick.
He was the quintessential white privilege man. Here's Mr. White Privilege guy who's got one moment on the hot seat instead of a lifetime of it, and he's crying through most of it. Just me. I mean, I can, you know, be ruthless comedically, but I mean, just the fact that he cried and yelled, I wouldn't give him a seat on the Supreme Court.
Well, no, I mean, you got to be a pretty level-headed guy. And look, I can't remember. I was too young when the Clarence Thomas thing happened to remember.
I remember it.
I mean, I remember it, but I don't remember what the discussion around it necessarily was.
It sounded like he was a real pig at work. He was talking about porno he had seen, and the big thing that everybody remembered. She said he came in one day and said he had a pubic hair on his coat.
That's the one. That's the one thing I remember.
But they grilled her like she was.
I feel like they treated her like the bad guy.
They did.
And it was very flipped. But, well, we'll see what happens. Hopefully they postpone the vote.
Here's the thing. Is your friend here?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Well, just let me say this.
Sure.
Why, in Holland, my Ashton is from Holland, and I lived in Amsterdam. You know, their judges are, and I think other countries, civilized countries, judges are not allowed to give a political affiliation because as a judge, you are supposed to be impartial.
That's brilliant.
And my other thing is...
Well, these judges shouldn't be talking about their religious affiliation.
They should have no affiliation whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree.
Religiously or politically. They should be a neutral person because you have to be an impartial judge.
Right.
And then also, why is being a Supreme Court justice a position for life? Like the Pope. So they can be 90 and drooling on themselves and they still get to vote on shit? Fuck that.
It's because, that's a classic.
Ridiculous.
That's a classic case of, you know, a seat of absolute power, and the emperor clinging to the scepter on his deathbed or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like they don't give those seats up, and it's further proof, in my opinion, that the president of the United States is a fucking figurehead. Whatever decisions are being made, he's having I don't care who the president is, he's having very little influence. He's just the guy willing to be the mouthpiece for those decisions. That is my opinion. And I think if it was a guy that was truly making decisions, they would not be turning that fucking office over as easily as they do every 4 years. You know, so it makes no sense that a Supreme Court judge is for life and a president is for 4 years.
Yeah.
That doesn't add up logically to a person that believes in both of those.
Yeah, it should be like a 10 or 20 year limit.
Yeah.
And they should try and do the most that they can in that time. So, Joe, in closing, my existence, my podcast, my comedy, everything I'm all about is uniting humanity. I think if I had a motto or my personal message to the world, it's that I want to unite humanity.
Yeah.
Everyone, and nothing unites humanity like the Golden Girls T-shirt that you're wearing now. Mm-hmm. When we went to Fox Brothers Barbecue today, you got like 4 or 5 compliments from an array of ethnicities,
and that was just when you were there.
Genders and
hey man,
where'd you get that shirt?
Uber driver loved it.
Yeah,
couple people before you walked in. This was a big hit today.
It was.
So I love the Golden Girls. Thank you for being a friend, Tom.
I love you, Joe DeRosa,
Yeah.
and respect you very much, brother.
Yeah, you too, my man.
You, my friend. Long may you run, brother.
You too.
Long may you run.
Tom Rhodes, you're a funny man. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedian. Tom Rhodes, karate kick, baby, oh yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're a groovy dude. You go all around the world, telling jokes to all of the people. You are an international comedian. You're funny to everybody in every single country in the world. Tom Rhodes, I like you very much. I think you're talented and very wonderful. Tom Rhodes, you're the best guy in the world. I wanna be your friend. You should call me sometime. Here is my phone number, 603-644-0048. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedic sensation. Tom Rhodes, I like to listen to your podcast. Tom Rhodes, you're the best man to ever walk on the earth.